I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Before we dive in, let's talk self-care. Shades of You is my new adult coloring book designed for Black women and women of color to relax, de-stress, and celebrate our beauty, strength, and diversity of our experiences. Take a moment for yourself, take a break, de-stress, and express yourself with empowering illustrations. Available now on Amazon or McKinneySmith.com. Today's guest expert is Danielle Chang Gardner, a relational psychotherapist and the founder of Roots of Purpose, ROP, Mental Health Services. With a deep belief that relationships are the foundation of our lives, starting with the relationship we have with ourselves, Danielle is dedicated to helping individuals foster connection, resilience, and healing. Danielle's passion for supporting others emerged from her commitment to helping people navigate stressful experiences and recover from trauma. This passion led to her established ROP in late 2022. What began as her solo practice has since flourished into a thriving clinic with a team of 5 therapists, all committed to providing compassionate and culturally sensitive care. Beyond her work at ROP, Danielle has been a YouTube influencer and an organizer of transformative self-help and social events, including her Redefining Her and Date Night. Known for her optimism and infectious laugh, Danielle brings warmth and enthusiasm to every interaction, inspiring her clients and community to embrace healing and personal growth. So please welcome to the show, Danielle Chang Gardner.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your story and your expertise with us. I had put out a post on social media asking people to recommend Black therapists, Black experts, and your name came up a couple of times. And I'm like, I know who Danny is. Like, why haven't I had one?
I was so impressed. I was like, oh, who's like, I thank you to the people who suggested me, because I have wanted to be on your podcast. Actually, you were one of the ones on my bucket list. So, it's like
nice. I love asking my audience, my network, my community, like who they recommend for things. And I love hearing oftentimes like, okay, they say that, either they say that women can't get along or that Black women don't support each other, all these things. Yes, that can be true, but two things can be true at the same time, because I have had amazing, amazing women that have supported me, that have called my name in rooms that I would never be invited to, referred me for things that, I wouldn't directly have access to. So I know that we are surrounded by great people, especially because more than one person recommended you.
You know what? I agree with you. Two things can be true at the same time. I actually tell clients that all the time because I think it is so true. And even for myself in my business, I wouldn't have been able to quit my 9-to-5 if other Black women hadn't put me on, right? Got me organizational contacts, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll get into it and we can.
Yes. Okay, so let's start. Actually, let me do my icebreaker first because I like to get to know more the foundation of who you are before we get to where you are presently. So, culture, society, our families, they unintentionally limit our beliefs.
Yeah.
And as kids, we have these vivid imaginations of who we want to be and what we want to be when we grow up. So
Mhm.
I would love to know,
Yeah.
who did Danielle want to be when
When
she
she
was a little girl?
Oh, wow, I haven't been asked this question for a minute, but actually, I wanted to be a singer.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to be a singer. I was like, "I wanna be on stage." I used to perform for my parents and I also used to even, like, sing at talent shows in the mall. Remember back in the day, people used to perform in.
Mhm.
Yep, so I was thinking I was gonna be a singer. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Can you actually sing?
Now I see I'm in retirement, like, I feel like I'm not as good anymore, but don't get me wrong, I will go off in a karaoke. I just recently had my 40th, and we had a karaoke birthday party, and yeah, it was
Happy
a
belated.
it was a Danny concert, so, yeah, so I love.
Okay, okay. So, I'll I I would also like to know, what type of teenager were you? They say sometimes you've got, teenage girls that are rebellious, or they've got teenage girls like myself that are, like, super quiet and introverted and try to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, no, I was a bad breed. I'm not even going to lie. My mom said she was worried I wasn't going to finish high school. Yeah, and that kind of went a little bit into college too, some of that
Mhm,
immaturity,
mhm.
shout out to Centennial College, right? But after that, I really smartened up and realized, "Okay, you know what? I need to drop this, little bad gal business and get my life together." So, people who know me back then, I'm sorry if I was like, I actually apologize to some people, eh, because I know I was a bad breed at that age, yeah.
I find it interesting that a lot of the women that I interview, or even that, like, I read their books and their memoirs, that are in the mental health space, that are therapists and mental health experts, I love hearing the beginning of the journey and how you guys have evolved,
Yeah.
because, there's always people that will see someone else's life and say that's not attainable for them, or that, they can't be that, not
Mhm.
knowing your story,
Yeah.
them making assumptions of what your life was like because of where you are presently, but
Mhm.
not understanding there was a journey,
Oh, oh,
right?
yes. Oh, yes, there was a journey. I definitely had anger-related issues, and now looking back on it, I know some of the reasons why I had some of those anger-related issues,
Mhm.
but, I'm a testament to my clients who say, "I don't know how to better control my emotions or control my anger." I'm like, "Listen, you want me to tell you I can do it? You can do it." And I'm
Yes. Yes. And I have to remind people, like, therapists, coaches, all the people that are in these positions helping others to better themselves, we're human. Like,
oh,
we have the same experiences you have. We experience the same feelings you have. We just have our toolbox that we go into, but sometimes we forget the toolbox is there.
oh, yes, exactly. And I think also once you have that toolbox, it's just maybe that you're better able to cope or recoup quicker, right?
Mhm.
I feel like for me, that's what a lot of people come to me for. They're like, "Yo, like, how did you manage to," like, one of my best guy friends used to call me, and I know, like, this can have some stigma associated because Black women are kind of always, you know, kind of always seen to be this type, but he calls me the bounce back queen, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
anything that's supposed to kinda bring you down, I noticed that you just, like, he goes bounce right back, right? And
Mhm.
he actually had me talk to a friend of his who was going through a divorce and things like that because I've just always, like, thankfully, one of my, like, superpowers is that I'm able to be very resilient, you know?
Mhm.
And I know that as Black women, that can be sometimes something that, people are almost expecting us to
Yep.
be super resilient, so I'm not promoting that, but I'm just saying that for me, that's always been something that I've been able to do, you know?
Mhm.
Mm,
Listen, my background, resilience is my superpower, okay?
yeah, I believe that. But yes, you're right. Yeah,
I have it tattooed on my arm.
yeah.
It's I had same as you. I have a male friend that for years. I mean, he's known me since I was probably in grade 9,
Mhm.
and he's always talked about my ability to bounce back from adversity and how he's watched me go through things that probably would have killed him. And yes, as Black women, we are known and almost expected to be resilient. But
Mhm.
I had to learn in the last few years the difference between healthy resilience and unhealthy resilience.
Yes, you can still ask for help. You can still be sad. You can still cry. You can still, go to therapy.
Yes.
You don't have to be superwoman.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So I would love to know what inspired you to pursue your career in social work and mental health. What
Yeah,
led you to also founding your company?
yeah. Okay. Well, whew, girl, that's a mouthful. Okay, so in terms of getting into this area, I'll be honest. When I was younger, I don't believe my parents really told me like it wasn't like I was in a family where they're like, be a doctor, be a lawyer. My dad's just like, go to school. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, what do I do? I know I need to go to school, but what do I do actually do? And I knew that I was good at chatting it up, talking to people, whatnot. So I thought, honestly, let me try social services. If I'm being really honest, I kind of just did it because I knew I liked working with people and I thought it was something where I could work with people. So I went to Centennial College, right? And and then obviously from there I went to York and did my BSW. Well, actually, I first went into sociology and my mom said, "You know what? You should get into something more specific." And so they shout out to moms because I got into social work and then I did my master's in social work, which then I worked in many different areas. I worked as a youth worker. I worked in employment. I worked I did my placements, both of them at CAS. And then I eventually was like, you know what? I want to get out of working. I'll be honest, I don't like 9 to 5. I don't like it. I did a good,
I say I'm unemployable.
yeah, I did a good 10 years of it. Yeah, but about 10 years of it. And even when I was there, I said, guys, I'm not going to be with you guys here another 20 years. I'm just not. I'm going to have to figure something out. Right. People thought I might have been an event planner because when I was in my younger years, like from 19 to maybe 24, I used to throw parties. And not everyone knows that, but people who know Danny from back in the day, shout outs to 4G's Entertainment, knows that I used to throw parties. Right? And we'd have 300 to 500 people at our parties. We would all promote them at our schools because it was four girls, me and three of my other girlfriends.
Mhm.
So I've always been that type of person that brings people together. But before it was just those are gay parties and whatnot. And then I expanded to doing something totally different. And I actually used to do Christian concerts for a little bit with a friend of mine. Yeah, I really went one extreme to
Okay.
that, right? And I remember she said, Danny, you can't be going to parties if we're doing these. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out. But so we also did that. And then eventually, anyway, so going back with my 9 to 5, I was like, you know what, I have to figure out something else. So I started doing landlord tenant disputes, like mediation. And then a friend of mine was in psychotherapy. And she said, Danny, if you can deal with these landlord tenant disputes, you could do psychotherapy. And she connected me with her employer, and I started doing that on the side. After seeing what the lady that I was working for was doing, I said, you know what? I could do this myself. And then I think COVID, I think for a lot of people, was
Mhm.
that little push.
Yes.
I probably would have done it regardless, but it might have taken me a longer time
Mhm.
because of COVID. And I'll just say due to not wanting to do certain things, I ended up I ended up saying, you know what? And I also was pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant. And then at that point I just got off of work early, and I took the year and a half mat leave. And during that time I transitioned into doing my practice full time. And I just went head first. I just went right in and I just started going, going, going. I think what helped is that I already knew a lot of people, which
Yeah.
just and I do the events, I do women's events, I do date night events with another friend of mine. So all of those things helped. Just having a good network helped me a lot in terms
Mm.
of business because we only just reached the 2-year mark and I'm making like more now than I have in any other job previously, right?
Congrats.
So thank you. So I'm so thankful, but I know it's because of the dope people I have around me and the community that I've built over time.
Mhm. I feel like the pandemic, two things. I mean, for a lot of people that I spoke to, the pandemic forced them to pivot, and they ended up pivoting into something where they were able to thrive more because
Mhm.
they were more intentional with
Yeah.
what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then there were some people, I guess, where the pandemic hit them so hard, they had like a hard time recovering from
Ye
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like people either had a really, like, great time or a really bad time. Like, I have
Mhm.
also had a really rough time. Um, Fortunately for me, I think the timing just worked out perfectly. Like, I was pregnant during the pandemic time, so I would have been home anyway, minding my baby, right? But, so it just worked out that it was actually it was actually, like, obviously, it was, not for the whole world, it wasn't a great thing, but for me, it was good. Like, it
Mhm.
produced a lot of good things. Mhm.
What I guess when you okay, so when you decided to focus on being
And
in
just
the
question, just so I know, what was the what was it? 'Cause I'm like, that question was so loaded. Like, I answered every part of the question. So
yes, you did. We're good, we're good. Um, when you decided to pivot into, being a psychotherapist, like, what gaps in the mental health services did you, I guess, notice that
Mhm.
motivated you to create your practice and tailor it to diverse communities?
Oh, goodness. Well, I think number 1, the gap, even though I love now that I'm seeing more and more Black psychotherapists, I love it, right?
Mhm,
But for a lot of my clients, I'm their first Black psychotherapist, right?
mhm, mhm.
They just say it's really refreshing to not have to over explain things, just certain things I understand. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, you're like, I don't know, your grandpa has like 15 kids. Yeah, I get it. Like, my
Yeah.
grandpa was
My dad's like 21.
right? But, like, I know that's, like, just, that's a funny example, but what I mean is just certain things that, like, we understand as other, Black women, we it's just a shared understanding, right?
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of people really appreciate that. Although I have clients from, every background, male, female, I would say a lot of my clients are Black women, and a lot of them are high performing Black women too, right? And I think that's by virtue of, being a Black woman myself, and then just the network that I've kind of built over time too. So yeah, I love my clients, and yeah, it's worked out really well.
I love that for so many reasons, and I know when I was looking for a Black woman therapist, there wasn't many options, and, like, my therapist now, I ended up having to go with a woman of color, but she's not necessarily Black, still from the Caribbean,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and now, like, I know I feel like almost all the Black therapists in Canada, I know who they are, like, they're a part of my network. I've had half of them on the podcast, like,
Yes. I know, I saw
all
actually.
that is there's so many of you.
Yeah, I know. It's actually awesome, but it's funny, even though now you feel like there's so many, if you actually look at everyone, we're still a minority. Like,
Absolutely.
people still tell me are having trouble finding a Black female therapist whose client list isn't full, who there's not a wait list, all of these things, right?
Mhm.
So I'm glad that there are more of us, but there is still the need for, future, Black women to get into this profession because you are needed. And also, I think what a lot of my clients really appreciate is my authenticity. I'm definitely someone who I'm not going to be talking a bunch of jargon that you don't understand. I'm very like, I like to say things in layman's terms. And I also, when appropriate, like to share little tidbits like of my life of how I've overcome certain things. And I feel like it kind of builds the rapport and lets you know that I'm not trying to come here like some, expert all-knowing person, right? Like, I'm, as you said, I'm also human just like you, and we're here on this journey together, and I'm just here to, assist you to help yourself basically. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Already have the answer.
I feel like for so many years, the stigma of mental health in the Black community, prevented a lot of people from getting the support that they needed. So seeing more, Black therapists out there and hearing that, they have wait lists, that they, don't even have the capacity to take on more clients,
Hmm.
but there's more people that are looking for support from them. There's more people getting help, more people seeking help.
Mhm.
Is also great to hear. And I think maybe a lot of the awareness that we've had since the pandemic about mental health, I'm hoping that's what, help people realize, okay, I don't need to be crazy. I don't need to, you know, I guess subscribe to the West Indian stereotype that you need to be locked up if anything to do with mental health, like, or you
Or
don't get disowned by your family.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because even when I chose this profession, initially my dad was just like, if you my dad's a 78-year-old Jamaican man, right? So he understands now, but at the beginning he's like, no, 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 Daniela, talk to people and like he asked if I did, and he could not answer the question. Okay. But I think over time, he's realized what I do. Some of his actually, even people within his network have reached out or like maybe for their kids or other people in
Mhm.
the community. So he's like, oh, okay, he goes, okay. Like now he gets it. He's starting to.
Good, good, very good. But
Mm.
what have been some other, I guess, unique challenges that you've faced providing culturally sensitive mental health care, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah. Okay. So some challenges that I've personally faced providing this care. I think another challenge is I'll be honest, affordability. Because at the end of the day, I think my prices are kind of middle of the line, but
Mhm,
I understand that for some people, it's still out of reach for them, right? And
mhm,
for our people, it's still out of reach for them, right?
mhm,
I would love in the future once I get to that point, like maybe have a nonprofit, side to my business where I could serve some of those people too.
mhm.
Because I feel like that's a section of the community that unfortunately I'm like, not able to currently help, right? Because I also need to, pay my house bill and my and my job. But and I'm a for profit right now. But it's definitely something that I'm aware of and that I do want to address. And that sometimes like if I speak for a nonprofit organization, I charge less and things like that. But at this point, there's only so much I can do with that
Yeah,
in that regard, and I
yeah.
do think that that's another barrier for our community, just affordability if they don't have a job where they do have those benefits.
Mhm. Yeah. I've had this conversation with quite a few people because it's like the people who can't afford therapy are typically the ones who need it the most. And then the wait list, if you go through your general practitioner, I remember when my middle daughter was, oh geez, she was probably like 8 or so. And I was going through the divorce with my ex-husband, and she needed the most emotional support. And
Yeah,
we had to wait like almost a year to get
yeah.
in to see this doctor. You know what I mean? So it was a lot. I mean, times have changed for me personally. Like, pardon?
I said, and then sorry to interrupt you, but then when you get in, you may or may not even connect with that person that they've
That
booked.
part. That part, right? That's what like and I'm grateful for where life is for me now, and I feel blessed to the fact that I like
Could afford it.
pre-schedule weekly appointments with my therapist.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
people are like, "I'm sorry, how much you spent on therapy?" I'm like, "It's worth it."
But you know what? Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely do think therapy is worth it. But I also understand if you don't have it, you don't have it, right? If
Yeah,
your choice is between food and paying your rent or
exactly. You're in
therapy,
survival mode. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, you're those things come first.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know there are so many ways, and I've talked about this on previous episodes, so I'm not going to get into it too heavy. But there's so many other ways that people, if you can't afford therapy, there are things that you can do. There are resources out there. There's free
Church,
fasts, churches, community
yep,
groups.
yep.
Yes, absolutely,
All
absolutely.
different. Yeah, you're totally right. And I guess if you've already talked about it, I will bore you with that information as well. But yeah, I've shared that with people too. People that like are unable to, afford services. I've tried to, recommend some free services, let them know about other, even supports that might be just in their general area, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
And I also am a firm believer that although I am a believer that everyone should at least try therapy if they're able to, right? Um, I'm also not opposed to someone who says, you know what, I go to my youth group, say I have I don't know, a discipler, and that's enough for me. I think that's
yeah,
great. Like that's
yeah.
awesome. Whatever is fulfilling that need for you and keeping your mental health. you know. Yeah, good.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
I can't remember the name. I think it's in What Happened to You with Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, I think.
Okay.
But they were talking about healing in different communities, and they were talking about I guess, the ancestral way in the indigenous community and in African communities that
Mhm.
don't have quote unquote therapy, but
Yep.
their forms of healing is through community. It's through, the supporting each other and all those things. So there are different
Yep.
modalities and ways to heal for sure.
100. And that's why I actually love I've seen other Black therapists have like healing circles and things like that. And I agree with you. There's so many other modalities and there's so many other ways, even that, as you mentioned, that our ancestors used to have that community, right?
Mhm.
When we talk about community too, I even think about my daughter, right? And raising my daughter. And I'm just, again, like very fortunate that I have a strong community around me. Like I have my mom, I have my dad, I have my sister, I have my like friend who comes over all the time with her pick me, right? And I'm just like, I don't think we're supposed to be in a silo by ourselves,
Oh,
even kids. I
yeah, no. It does take a village.
like for someone that's like by themselves, say they're in a new country or they just don't have that support network. I'm just thinking, like, my goodness, like the mental health toll on you doing that by yourself.
Yeah.
And I only have one. Okay.
Yeah. See, listen, I joke with my daughter. So my middle daughter made me a grandmother about a year ago. And I strongly believe her daughter is like the easiest going baby I've ever experienced in my life. Like,
Oh,
even when she
wow.
cries, it's cute. So when she gets frustrated, I explain to her, like, you have a community. You have your parents, you have your grandparents, you have your siblings, you have your partner. You have a community and you still get frustrated with one. Like, I was a single mom of three. Like, you know what I mean? There are people out there that don't have these support systems. They don't have supportive families. They don't have supportive friends. So just remember to be grateful that
Yes.
you have this.
Yeah. And what I also tell like some of my clients too is sometimes I even work with them on how to, if you don't have that community, let's work on like some ways in which you could potentially expand that.
Yeah.
Let's get you involved in some community activities, going to like, because I do think it's something valuable to put time into to try to start to build that community if you don't have it, because
Yes.
it really is invaluable. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
I I would love to know, like, what's been your most challenging aspect of your own personal healing journey, and how did you navigate through that?
Yeah. I think I always like run this joke that all of my trauma took place in adulthood because I honestly shout out to my parents. I feel like I had the wickedest, nicest childhood, right? But in terms of my adulthood, I have been divorced. I am no longer with my daughter's father. So I've had two long-term relationships. Um, and I think that in both of those cases, I was kind of rushing and letting like societal expectations kind of
Mm,
guide me a little bit more than my own brain.
right.
Know? Like I think when I was with my ex-husband, I think I got to a certain age and a certain point and I thought, okay, well, now we need to get married. Like I'm at that age and it's that time, you know? And
Mhm.
I'm very forthright. I think I basically told him that. And I don't know that he or I were like completely ready, especially not him, but like, but both of us fairly, right? But I think that, yeah, I think I just thought that this is the time that we're supposed to do this and we should do this now. But really, when I look at our relationship, I'm like, we had a bunch of stuff that we needed to work on before even thinking about getting married, right?
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
all fairness, right? And then even like with my daughter, I think I was just at a point where I was like, oh, late 30s. I wanna have a baby. Like, no, but it's always like this rush, right? And it's like and I think a lot of women can resonate with that in the sense that we all kind of feel these pressures, right, for different things,
Is
right?
it the unspoken timelines?
Unspoken timelines, right? And I think what I say is beautiful right now is because like I have been married, because I do have my daughter. I feel like now I'm kind of just like, unless you're really saying something, like
Been there, done that. Let me not let me do this right. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really think I would want to take the time to make sure that that is the person that I want and not simply choosing who chooses me.
Yeah.
Because I think in the past I've done that a lot,
Yeah.
right? This guy's, showing me like all this affection and all this stuff. Okay, let me give him a chance. You know, but am I really doing the choosing or am I just choosing who's choosing me? So
Mm-hmm.
now, um, I just have more clarity in that respect. But I think that in my personal journey has been something that I've had to work through. And it took a while. You know what I mean? Like I've made the same mistake like 2 times, right? But there were good parts out of that too, though. I see everything. I see life as a journey. And I actually wouldn't change anything about the journey because I don't know that I would be where I'm at now
Right.
had I gone through all of those things. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I can totally relate with, being, I guess, chosen and not necessarily choosing.
Mhm.
And I was chosen by some people that were emotionally unavailable. And I
Mhm.
think because I didn't realize at the time the healing that I needed to do, I
Mhm.
let them in and was completely vulnerable and allowed things to happen. And
Mhm.
then after having my heart broken and my bank accounts emptied, I was like, "What just happened?" Like, "What?" And I like, that was the trigger to my deep healing because I was like, "Okay, there's some work that needs to be done here because I'm attracting something and I don't want to do that anymore." So, things
Well,
have completely changed.
until we learn the lesson, I find that we keep attracting the same types of situations, like
Yeah,
in our lives, right? And even though the two people that I was in those long-term relationships were totally different, like they were literally like two very different guys, but I know what you mean. But a lot of the same like issues when you get down to the core, but they were. It's very interesting. It's very
yeah,
interesting how that works, and I think really that you do have to learn the lesson, and you also, I think, have to be okay with whether you have someone or not. Like, I think you also have to, because I've always felt like this though. I feel like whether you have someone or not, I always say, I'm still Danny, regardless of who else I have with me. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't take away none of my sauce, my shine, nothing like that.
yeah.
Right. And, and I think that women, a lot of women struggle with self esteem so much. And one thing I love to even put on my friends, like, it's so nice. One of my like newer friends said, you know what? I thank you so much because I attribute my increased confidence to you trying to mimic your level
Yes.
of confidence, right? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I love that, right? Because I feel like as women, if we are more confident, I think we can make better decisions and not make
Yes,
decisions,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
We have that confidence. So
Yeah.
I'm big on that. I'm big on bigging up my
Listen, when people ask me, "What do I sell?" I sell confidence, okay?
really. Wow, we have a lot in common, Bikini. We should, we
Yeah,
should, we should collab.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so what has been the most powerful lesson that you've learned about yourself during your healing journey?
Mhm,
And I guess what would you share, with those that are listening so they don't do the same?
mhm, mhm. I would say really don't focus so much on like societal expectations and rushing yourself to get to a certain point. Cause I felt like with me, I was always like, because my life, I think in those early years had been so smooth, apart from my little bad breed era, but like it was really smooth. Like I went to college, I went to university, I got my job, I got married, you know? I feel like you don't have to do everything perfect in order to have a beautiful life, right?
Mhm.
And you also don't have to feel like you have to follow all of society's expectations. You should really do what feels right to you and not
Yes.
rush things too soon or like too much. That would
Mhm.
be my takeaway for the younger people in my audience. And also, I would say for the older people too. I'm probably included in that group too. But anyway, so I would say, like, you don't have to. hold so tightly to that past that you've had, right? You can choose to rewrite your story. You
Yes.
still have many years moving forward, and you can choose to show up differently, right? To believe in yourself more, to have increased confidence. You can truly rewrite your story moving forward and not let that like hold you back or bring you down. And yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm,
Obvious. I feel like a lot of the women in my age group, and I'm like my mid 40s,
mhm.
they are high achievers. They, check all the boxes in all the areas of their life. And
Yeah.
the one box that they struggle in or that remains empty is their relationships.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, I know. It's a big thing, and I think there's not one answer for that.
Hmm.
Um, I think with high achieving women, it can be many things. For some people, they really are putting out that consistent effort, right?
Hmm.
Perhaps it's just not their time, or perhaps they need to do some work on themselves too, right?
Hmm.
And I think for some, they've just given up, if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
I know people that are just like, yeah, just opposite extreme. Like, I don't like men. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm good by myself. I have my
I
cat,
know
and I'm
some
good.
girls.
Right? So I think that, or some people are just so wrapped in their work, like in terms of just going up that corporate ladder, right? And I'm a firm believer that whatever you do want, and this is just my own personal belief, that whatever you do want, you do have to put some action behind,
Absolutely.
even if it is like a relationship. Like
Mhm.
for those who think you can just sit in your yacht and like men will find you, like hopefully, maybe. But I think if you really want that, you got to put some energy behind that too. So I'm very intentional about what I want and what I want to put my energy in at different
Mhm.
times, because
Mhm.
I find that whatever I do focus on and put my energy in and put out those positive affirmations, I do find that eventually that does come into being, right? So it's
Absolutely.
not philosophical.
The results are in the action. Like, I feel like this is a common theme today, actually, because all the coaching clients that I had today, this was kind of like similar along the themes of what you just said, where it's like I asked them, like, what is important to you in your life right now? What are your priorities? Because if you say it's your relationship or your children, all these things, if you look at your daily life, if you look at your actions every day, if you look at your routines and your habits, is that a reflection of that? Can you say that, your kids are important to you, but you're at your job 16 hours a day, you don't make any intentional time to spend time and value that relationship with your children? If you say your relationship with your partner is important to you, but you never have date nights or any of those things, like you're they get the tired version of you at the end of the day when you're moody. Like, do your actions and your daily habits and routines reflect what you say is important to you?
100%. Oh my goodness. Yes. And now you're really bringing me back to like my couples clients, because I would say I have like almost half of my clients are couples now too. And I
Mhm.
love couples because yeah, I push that. I say, if you guys are going to say you're focusing on your relationship, you need to be making those check-in times, making those date nights, because as you said, like if you don't put into those actionable things, then it's just talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, oh, I love you, but okay, but where's the action behind
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Love is an action word, okay?
Exactly.
Like, I've had my, like I said, fair share of unhealthy relationships in the past, and
Mhm.
my fiance, we went to high school together. So
Oh,
I've known him since we were 15. We've always been friends. We got married and had children with other people, and we went out for drinks one time, and we were both opening up that we were going through a divorce.
mhm.
And, we've been there for each other through all the big life, like, moments, and ever since we started dating just over 3 years ago,
Mm.
every single week, he plans a date night. Every single week. And when I
Consistent.
tell people that, guys are like, "Every week?" I'm like, so it's usually every Wednesday, but I started doing a group coaching, session on Wednesday nights, so we've moved the date, but every single week without fail.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? The consistency. It's the consistency for me, right? I always say, don't introduce me to an energy you can't maintain,
Thank you.
because yeah, that part. I love the consistency. Oh, girl, they have a but no, I love that for you.
Thank you. Thank you. A definite change from, what I was used to, but I rewrote my story. I've been working on my healing. It's a journey, but yes. Um,
Mhm.
I would love to know how your healing journey has shaped how you see yourself, and not just as a therapist, but as a person.
Mhm. Okay, so how am I feeling gonna shape my
The way that you see yourself.
okay. Um, wow. Okay. I think now I see myself as I said, I'm not Danny who is a wife to so and so. I'm not Danny who's with so and so or who has even a baby or whatever. I am Danny regardless of the changes that go on around me, right?
Yes.
I am not really looking so much external sources of like fulfillment or happiness. Like obviously, like I want those too, but what I mean is that I'm not like so closely attached to that. And no matter what happens, I know that I still remain and the essence of myself doesn't change, right?
Mhm.
How I feel about myself. And I feel like even the people like talking about that resilience, right? Even the people around you can see that. When like, yes, if things happen that are, that are sad, like I think let's be real, like for me, when I realized, okay, now my daughter's gonna be, not with her whole family unit together. That
Mhm.
part, right? But I can still, maintain that, okay, but you know what? We're still going to be like fine. She still has her father in her life. As I said, I'm still, Danny regardless. You know what I mean? And I think what I would say to the women is if you can just start to have that, like, basically that grounding, that centeredness, right? And whatever brings that to you, do that. I had a friend who also was going through a breakup. And she almost every month for almost like no, not every month, maybe like every 3 months for about like a year, she would always go back to the Caribbean because she loved just going into salt water, grounding in the sand,
Yep.
having believe there's something healing about them rivers and them water over there because and like I think that just brought her back, right? And made her like just be more comfortable with herself, right? Focusing on the relationship with herself and just her own purpose in life,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And that's not to say you can't also, be also focused on, starting to, you know, starting to take the steps to potentially have a new relationship and things like that. But you need to have that like that base, that grounding of
Yes.
self,
Yes.
in order to do that in a in the right way. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, if you're just kind of like beggy, like as I call you're gonna attract the right thing. You're gonna
Yep.
attract the right thing for sure. Right? I'm actually excited for my next man because I feel like fingers crossed. I'm hoping he's gonna be good, right?
Listen, we are like magnets, right? We attract what's in harmony with us. We can't attract what's not in alignment with who we are. So,
100%. So I'm totally about making women just like their best version. And I noticed that like I've just been attracting even like since I've been an entrepreneur, I've been attracting other female entrepreneurs as friends. I have so many new
yeah,
friends, entrepreneurs. Almost,
yeah.
I'm looking now. I'm like, oh, how are all of my friends entrepreneurs? Like all of a sudden, right? And like, don't get me wrong, I still like have my day ones, but like I also have this whole new group of entrepreneurial females right
Yeah.
around me, and it's just crazy. As you said, you really do attract what you are because
Mm.
I feel like didn't even deliberately do that, but it's just like, oh, like
Yeah.
comes in,
Happens
right?
naturally. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
especially based on, what is important to you, what you're prioritizing, what you're attracting based on, the circles and the rooms that you're going into, you just naturally start to attract them.
Yeah. So I feel like you just have to really, as I said, like focus on yourself, pursuing your purpose, having that grounding in yourself, and then you'll attract the right person for you. And
Mhm.
then the thing I would urge people to do too is be your authentic self. You know, don't try to be what you think they want you to be. You know,
Mhm.
because the person who is going to accept you just as you are. You know,
Absolutely. God cannot bless who we pretend to be.
right? Right? like when some guys say, "Oh, I want a fresh meal every night." I'm like, "Mm." I'm like, I do that like 3 times a week, but every night we're pushing it, honey. I have a business to run,
That part.
right? And I'm trying to be rich enough where we can have someone come in and cook our food, or have it made. Because honestly, like if
Yeah.
that is like, I want you to actually know who I am, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that also that will attract someone who's the same, so that we can also see, are we aligned, right?
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
we have a similar vision for our future, or are those things that can be like, mesh, like do they fit together?
Yes. Yeah. I
Mhm.
I guess, okay, so, you talked about working with, you work with couples, you work with other people who are working through their adversities. You work with people who are experiencing trauma. How do you help your clients build resilience and move forward?
Ooh, okay. Well, in terms of building resilience, oh my goodness, I could talk about this forever, but I'll just say some quick things really quick.
Mhm,
Um, in that whole theme of like rewriting your story, right? I think sometimes you have to change the negative like thought patterns that are constantly in rotation in your mind,
mhm,
right? Kind of replacing them with positive ones, or even just more realistic ones. If positive ones seem like too far of a stretch for you, being more realistic, right?
mhm.
Like, is it really that all men are trash? Or is it really that,
So
you have encountered,
yeah,
thus far, right?
yeah.
Like, and I think that that's one thing that really helps. I'm a big advocate also of those positive affirmations, right? Even like I've given clients tasks of writing a letter to their self, to their former self, things like that. I'm just like naming off a few quick things,
Mhm,
but those are some tips that I've given my clients to kind of help them in their process of, reinventing themselves, rewriting their story, and really getting past those, as I said, those like like those reoccurring negative thoughts that are kind of blocking them from moving forward.
mhm. And speaking of negative thoughts, like, let's speak to, like, the people who are not presently in therapy, because we know that for some people, there's still a stigma that creates a barrier for them to seek help. How do you encourage people to take that first step towards therapy?
Oh, okay. Well, in terms of how I would encourage some, honestly, I think just okay, how I see it is just try it. Like the first step can be something as easy as like maybe you could ask a friend that you know that that is in therapy to recommend a therapist to you. Maybe you can go on Psychology Today. There's plenty of Black specific databases that you can go on if you would like a Black therapist. But if you just in general, you could. I think Psychology Today is a great resource as well,
Mhm,
right? And then I would say just go in with an open mind and don't hold back in therapy. It's not the place to go in and filter the conversation or not be authentically yourself, because I think as therapists, we've heard everything already anyway. Nothing you say is gonna really shake us at this point. Like sometimes people are like, I don't want to say this, but I'm thinking it's something gonna be something like really crazy. And I'm like, that's it? Like so show up as your authentic self. Don't be afraid to actually, you know, share everything, because it's actually one of the safest places to share information because, we have all those confidentiality,
yes.
regulations around us, and I ain't trying to lose my license or my job. So I am keeping my mouth sealed, right? So
Yeah,
one of the best places for you to go in and actually just be open and be honest. So I
yeah.
would I would recommend that people go in there with the willingness to actually give it a fair shot and to be open and honest with your therapist.
Mhm. And as someone who has consistently, like, been going to therapy, I would also recommend, like what you said, like, being open and honest, but you get out of it what you put into it, right? If you're holding back and you're not being fully truthful, if you're trying to filter your behavior only, or if you're trying to spin a certain narrative, like, you only get out of it what you put into it. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, no, that's true. Because if you think about it, when you're doing individual therapy, especially if, maybe this person's coming to therapy about their relational issues, you're only getting half the story, to be honest, right?
Yep, yep.
So if that person's not being honest or is giving you a fake version of what's happening, how can you even really help them?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly. exactly. And
Yeah.
so, little quick personal story. Like when I think I was going for about a year, every week for a year. And
Yeah.
then, because of what I was sharing about my relationship, she's like, oh, I'd love to meet him. How about you guys try a couple session? So we did a couple of couple sessions, and she was like, you two don't have any issues like between each other. Any issue that is caused in the relationship is based on your families and your outside people. Like,
Wow.
so we don't have to go as a couple anymore to therapy because we don't have a problem. Him and I don't have a problem. It's it's
Wow.
us learning boundaries with our family. Yeah.
Yep. And that's another big thing in couples therapy as well. Yeah. It's like managing those outside relationships and those outside voices, right? And learning which ones are helpful to your relationship and which ones are probably kind of harmful, right?
Mhm.
And knowing what to share and probably when not to share, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm a big believer and I don't ask for advice from people that I wouldn't wanna switch places with. So if I see that you don't have a healthy relationship, don't be giving me relationship advice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get you. I've even had some clients say to me, like, oh, are you in a relationship or have you been in a long term relationship? And I understand what they're saying because they kind of want to know that even if I think personally, even if you're not in one currently, not to say you don't have valuable advice, because I do think that sometimes just through certain experiences, you can have sound advice.
Yes.
And some people that are in relationships.
We know.
Okay, so I'll leave it there. We know, like, basically, you know what I'm saying, and it's always, like, good relationship,
Yeah.
so I think it's far more important to be a person that, and I think your relationships are not only just your romantic relationships,
Mhm.
how are your relationships in general?
Mhm.
Like, how is your
Mhm.
relationship with your family? How is your
Mhm.
relationship with so many different areas in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing your wisdom, your story with us. Before we go to the rapid fire, I'd love if you could tell people where they can stay connected with you, where they can learn more from you and about you.
Okay, perfect. Well, I am on IG and TikTok at ROP, so ROP Mental Health, right? And also my website is www.ropmentalhealth.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So basically all of the major, social networks on there. I'm also on YouTube if you want to check it out. Some of my old videos prior to being a therapist, some while was in my early days, at Danny Chang. So DANICHANGB. Uh,
Perfect. So I will have all of those details in I'll have all your links in the detail below the episode so they don't have to search too far.
okay.
And they can just connect with you directly.
Can I actually say one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay, on the video. Okay. Um, Also, in the new year, I'm actually going to be coming out with a course, and it's a roadmap to rewrite your story
Wow.
because I do feel like a lot of the women I'm working with, that's what we're doing, and I'm like, this would be great to be a course on a on a larger level and have a
Yeah.
community that can kind of support each other through the process. So watch out
Love
for that in
it.
20.
Absolutely love it. Love it. I I like to do a rapid fire, but I don't like to put anybody into a box because I don't like to be put into boxes. So you can answer one word or one sentence, but if you feel the need to unpack, you're more than welcome to do so.
Cool. Let's do it.
Okay. Um, Name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
Ooh, I liked, oh my goodness, hold on. It's a book by 50 Cent, but I can't wait. Is it Get Rich or Die Trying? No,
He's
let
got a
me,
couple.
because which one is it? Oh, it's one that I love. I think it's about Get Rich. I think it's Get Rich or Die Trying. I have it over here. Hold on. And of course, right now I can't. Okay, so it's the book by 50 Cent. I believe it's called Get Rich or Die Trying, but you can put it down below in case I got it wrong. And then another book, it's very cliche. I know a lot of people have read it already, but I really enjoyed The Secret as well. So those
Hmm.
were I really like.
I definitely read both of those. My mentor Bob Proctor was one of the thought leaders featured in the documentary The Secret changed my life.
Yes, it's good. And I like my cracker too.
Okay, let's see, if you could have a billboard anywhere,
Mhm.
uh, what would it say and why?
What would it say? I think it would have something to do with, you know, just being yourself unapologetically, you know, and being selfish, but the right type of selfish, you know,
Mhm.
but the right type of selfish, something along those lines, you know, and yeah, maybe it would be something like that.
Okay.
Mm.
What have you become better at saying no to in the last 5 years? And that could be distractions, invitations, family.
I think it's just things that I don't want to do. If I
Mm.
don't want to hang around certain people, if I don't want to go to a certain event, if my spirit's saying no, I'm not go. We're gonna
Yeah.
follow my, how I
Yeah.
feel about it,
Yeah.
and not in a like, lazy way, but in a way like kind of I think we all have our intuition too, right? Like if we
Yep.
kind of know something we're not really don't feel like it would be beneficial to us, to our spirit, like then don't do it.
Yep.
I said I don't even in work now, I don't want to do anything moving forward that is not in alignment with what I believe. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, and that expands to so many different things. A friend just wanted me to do an eyelash course, and I was just like, "But do I really want to?" Like, I like even though that's such a small thing, it's just not me. I don't even really
Yeah.
wear eyelashes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
Yeah.
just want to do things in alignment with what I really find to be valuable, and yeah,
Absolutely. I believe if it's not a hell yeah, it's a heck no.
exactly.
Um, okay. I mean, this one might not be that rapid of a question, but how has motherhood changed you?
Ooh, girl. Okay, everyone already said it. I think I became a soft gal after I after I had my daughter. Because, well, I feel like I've been more in touch with my emotions. Because before, honestly, if someone was to see me cry, they would think the world's probably ending because it just wasn't something that in my younger years I would do. But like, I feel like I'm so much more, yeah, uh, like because I'm so emotionally attached to her too.
Mhm.
I feel like, and also, fun fact, I wasn't really like a kid person, to be honest. So, but after I have my daughter now, oh my gosh, now I see kids in the park. I'm like, hi, you know what I mean? People are like, "Who are you?" I'm sliding down the slide with her and like another little friend. Like I'm doing the most. So I think it's really just, yeah, it's really, I think, opened me up like emotionally as well, which I think was something that I also needed, because
Mhm.
yeah, I think that was something that I needed.
Love it. Okay, last but not least, what does your self-care routine look like?
Okay. Well, in terms of self-care, there's so many different things, but I love me a Epsom salt bath with some incense, right? Like a bath is something like I think water is just so renewing. Like I must, yeah, and I think I am a water sign, even though I'm not big into those signs, but like, I'm a Scorpio. And, so I love beaches, I love my baths, but my self-care routine, like, in the mornings look like I obviously, have my to-do list and things like that, but I love to wake up early before my daughter gets up, have my morning coffee, do my positive affirmations, pray. That's kind of how, in short, my self-care morning routine is. But then when I'm feeling really stressed, like, people will know, like, I'm in my bath or I'm gone to, like, Jamaica for a week or
Yeah.
something, That, in short, those are some things I do for self-care.
Love it. Thank you so much, Danielle, for, like I said, sharing your expertise and your wisdom with us, sharing your story. I do not take anyone's time lightly. I truly appreciate you co-creating this experience with the listeners, with me. Just thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that, it was something that will resonate with the ladies listening, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yes. Alright.
Thank you again, Danielle, for sharing your story and your expertise with us today. I truly, truly appreciate you. And to all my healers out there, thank you for tuning in. Because of you, we rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there. And there are over 3 million. So if today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, rate the show, and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Now, I want to challenge you to think of one person who would benefit from today's conversation. Share this conversation with them. Someone out there needs this testimony. Feel free to screenshot this week's episode, and you can tag us at ROP Mental Health. Also, you can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. And let's continue to keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to pour into yourself. My new Shades of You adult coloring book is a celebration of Black and women of color, of our beauty, and it's about self-care through coloring. So relax, reflect, and express yourself. Grab your copy on Amazon or at McKinneySmith.com. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope. So let's continue to heal her.